Hi, everybody in podcast land and also on YouTube. I'm James.
I'm David.
I'm Riley.
And this is the Carpool Critics Movie Podcast, where today we are covering the 2018 Indian movie, Andhadhun.
Andhadhun. Spoiler alert. It came out in 2018. You've had time to see it.
That's my favorite part of every podcast is you shaming people for not having watched the movie.
Unless it just came out,
Yeah.
I'm going to shame you.
And if you're one of our convoy of listeners who watch the movies ahead of time, next week is another Sarah episode, and we're doing another Tarantino movie, Inglourious Bastards.
Lieutenant Aldo Ryan. That's a different thing.
That was Forrest Gump sounding.
That's Forrest Gump.
That's your Brad Pitt?
Yeah.
But today...
He might be in it.
Today...
Forrest Gump.
It's Andhadhun all day. Woo! I spoke to a representative of India on the weekend. Basically just a random guy who was unlocking his bike. And I was like, hey, have you seen Andhadhun? And he's like, oh yeah.
What?
Yes, this actually happened.
This is such a James thing to do.
Yeah.
I hope he's listening right now, actually.
Did you tell him about the
We
bike
ended up
test?
talking for like 10 minutes.
Nice.
Hey, have you seen
Anyway,
Andhadhun?
point
Who are
being,
you?
he told me that like 80% of India has seen this movie, which is like 1 billion people.
It's
wow.
a huge hit.
It got a really good rating, right?
Tons of awards.
Yeah, the National Award, I think it's like their equivalent of the Oscars.
Yeah.
So yeah, you should have seen it, especially if you're Indian. It's weird that you didn't. I'm told only like old people and farmers maybe didn't see it.
Fair enough.
Well, yeah, that's I can forgive them. Because it's also a crazy movie, but we'll get
It
into
made
that.
most of its money in China, strangely enough.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I don't know what ticket prices are like in India. Maybe that's a factor, but
It
it
made-
like within 6 days, it had made more than the entirety of its run in India
Wait,
and China.
seriously?
Yeah.
So, man, I'm going to have I'm not even going to have an excuse for not understanding what's going on. If people in China love it, maybe they have a greater understanding than I
That's
do.
bizarre. Do we have to do any other disclaimers like about our knowledge or not having knowledge of Indian cinema?
I mean, let's disclaim that. We don't know very much about Indian cinema.
I have like zero.
I have almost zero.
Yeah, me too.
So this was quite an experience.
It really
was
is.
enlightening.
It was, again, we said in last podcast, but this was suggested to us. There was a number of movies suggested to us by the fans who emailed in and told us to watch some Bollywood movies. And also Jabby Koay, the guy that I did an interview with. He's a really nice guy. And he's like, watch this one. It was on his list.
Nice.
So here we are.
So David,
we are.
what are you giving it out of 10?
Andhadhun takes you on a wild ride with insane highs, knock you out twists and tonal shifts, and a few flat parts. But you could say I'm a Bahat Bada Prashansak.
Oh, gosh.
8 out of 10.
What are you trying to say for the
Yeah,
people,
can
for the
you-
people who
That's,
do speak
I'm just
whatever language you were trying to do?
I'm a huge fan.
They probably still didn't understand you, so
I'm
even
sure
they...
anybody understood that.
Yeah,
It just means I'm a huge fan.
Okay, gotcha.
Hindi?
Yeah, in
Okay.
Hindi. Because the movie's in Hindi.
Yes. Hindi
Half in
language.
English, though.
And that's the other thing. It's like we were kind of talking a bit about whether it's a Bollywood movie or not. But I think it's I think it's safe to call this one Bollywood because it's made by It's a subsidiary of Viacom and some other
So
companies.
it's pretty mainstream.
Right. The discussion there was like, well, if it's
a
not a
big
Hollywood
Hollywood
movie and it's in India, it's a Bollywood movie. But even here, like in North America, Western movies aren't all Hollywood movies. Some of them
That's
are
true.
independent movies, right?
That's
So
true.
I wanted to know, like, do we call it a Bollywood movie or not?
Yeah. It's a Bollywood movie. And you want to know what I thought, I guess, hey?
Tell me.
This was one of the wildest roller coaster rides I've ever been on, and I'm not sure whether that's because this is the first Hindi movie I've ever seen, or because the movie is just that crazy. I think I liked it. And I can't rate this by my usual, this isn't part of my slogan anymore, but I didn't know whether to rate it by my usual metric. I don't think I can, because I'm missing the cultural background. But I have a feeling that, like, if this were a Western movie, I might give it a 7.5.
Yeah, somewhere in there.
It's like, it's hard.
Very hard.
Yeah. It's almost like watching a movie in another language.
It was like another disclaimer I wanted to give, really, which is like, I know, like, I don't want to offend people. Like, this is clearly a very popular and beloved movie, and I don't want to be like, I'm giving it a 4.
I was
But
confused.
if I was Indian, it'd probably be an 8. Like, it's just like, there's things we're not gonna get.
Yeah, for sure.
So, bearing that in mind, by the way, when I say get, I don't just mean like, oh, that happened and you guys missed it. I mean, like, why is he singing songs for 10 minutes now? Like, that doesn't
Yeah.
please me.
Yeah.
It's about sensibility.
Yeah. There are things like that where I'm like, I think I understand what happened, but there's a bunch of like tertiary details happening around it that are just kind of bewildering to me because they're part of like a cultural tone that I don't and that I'm not familiar with.
Yeah.
Can't wait to talk about it.
So here's mine. Andhadhun has more twists and turns than the Ganges, but a weak protagonist and my lack of cultural awareness leave me saying sorry.
What?
They say that in the
like
movie.
a sorry? Like
No,
the
yeah, like-
garment?
Oh.
Pretty bad. I'm giving it a 6.9.
I hated it, but now
Nice.
I'm coming around. That's a great joke.
6.9. 7 is what I usually mean by like, that's a good movie. This is a good movie. This is similar to a rating I gave like Justice League. It's a good movie.
Didn't you give Justice League 6.9?
Something like that. Yeah, this is a good movie.
Is this like a meme streak you're on?
I just couldn't give it a 7.
It's a nice
quite.
rating.
It's a nice.
It's a good movie.
Very nice.
Do you want to know what happens, or is that later?
Later, let's do sponsors first.
Whoa! Carpool Critics is supported by Manscaped's Performance Package Kit. It comes with a ton of stuff, including their new lawnmower waterproof trimmer with advanced skin-safe technology, which helps reduce nicks and cuts, their crop preserver ball deodorant, weed whacker nose and ear hair trimmer, and their Shears 2.0 luxury nail kit. Head to manscaped.com/carpool20 today and get 20% off plus free international shipping.
To India?
All the way, baby.
Woo.
Plus, you'll
Wow.
get their Shed travel bag to put everything in and a pair of their anti-chafing boxer briefs. And I believe Sikh people must wear boxer briefs. So all of India's covered. I'm just going to stop talking now.
Yeah.
Available for a limited time. We're also brought to you by Private Internet Access VPN. PIA helps you hide your true IP address so that you can bypass geo restrictions and censorship. You can connect up to 10 devices at once and includes an internet kill switch.
Car crash.
There's a rabbit noise in there
yeah,
somewhere
yeah.
too. If your VPN gets disconnected involuntarily, PIA is available for Windows, Mac, Android, iOS, and even as a Chrome extension, so check it out at lmg.gg/carpoolcritics.
Wait, what did you think the rabbit noise was?
Oh,
Oh, that?
That's a rabbit noise.
The mask rustling?
Yeah, it's like the nose wrestling. Dude,
Rustling?
rabbits don't make noise, right?
yeah, really.
don't know.
Bugs Bunny does. So
They
I guess.
whistle.
If they do make noise, yeah, it's just like little squeaks probably. They're rodents.
It's really annoying when you have a kid and you're like, you're looking at a little book of animals and you're like, what's this one say? Moo. This one, quack, quack. This one,
Hoppity hop.
like the book actually will just say like, sniff. Or okay.
I love it. Man,
Silly.
this movie is wild.
Oh, yeah.
And I think one of the things I want to talk about is how great it is to go into a movie knowing absolutely nothing. And like this is to the millionth degree for us because we know nothing about Indian cinema and we know nothing about this. I had zero expectation. And
Also the actors.
Yeah.
We don't even, like, for all we know, we're watching like George Clooney
Yeah.
and super famous, maybe even the singer.
Yeah.
We just don't know them at all.
Well, apparently the main character is beloved. He's like one of the most favorite people in India because he plays very like normal people in
Oh, yeah?
movies. Like he's not like a superhero. He's just like a regular dude.
Ayushmann Khurrana.
I believe so. Yes.
I definitely didn't say that right.
Who
But
would that be in the West? Who would that be? That'd be like, who's the guy from Superbad?
Michael Cera? No. I think he's more of like a Sam Rockwell.
Sam Rockwell. But he's funny?
Sam Rockwell's not just funny.
Well, no,
Well, what about
I know.
Platt?
But Sam
Platt?
Rockwell.
Who's Platt?
Chris Platt?
Yeah.
Platt.
Chris Pratt?
Maybe. Although
Platt.
Not
his,
Platt.
his life
Sylvia
is
Platt.
changing. It's changing. But yeah, man, like there's so much in this movie that I could not believe what was happening. Even like the early kind of twist stuff, the first time he's playing the piano in her apartment, and then you see the pool of blood and the body, and you walk around it. I was like floored. I was like, uh-oh, this movie's
Yeah.
gonna be like so different from what I expected
Well,
from the first 30
I
minutes
read the
of its
log
movie.
line, so I knew that he like witnessed a murder. So
I knew he
ready for
witnessed
that.
a murder, but I thought it was gonna be like a funnier movie. I didn't know it was a black
Wait, what?
comedy.
Oh,
I thought it was
okay.
like a maybe dark comedy.
Oh, you thought it was going to be like a fun
Yeah, because
romp.
by the first 25 minutes, it seems kind of fun. Like to me, it was like half the like Love Actually with hints of La La Land and Scent of a Woman. And then it shifts
No.
into Saw, into Touristas, into Ocean's 11, and it's like, whoa, we're on a crazy total ride.
I would say more like the what Burn After Reading, the Coen
Yeah,
brothers
I mean,
movies, where
overall,
just,
it's more like that.
So many things are happening. You're just like, wait, what, how, who's going where, and what?
But there's some like pure horror stuff in this movie that like made me genuinely uncomfortable.
Oh, like the
harvest. There's a few too many scenes about harvesting organs. Made me a little uncomfortable. I don't know if that's like more common
Yeah.
in Indian cinema where it's like, oh, it's just we talk about that. It's no big deal.
I mean, maybe before we get really into that, I'll let you know about all the twists and turns.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, here's what happens. This is a little bit longer than normal because there's a lot of twists. Sorry. Akash is a pianist who fakes being blind to improve his piano skills, because that's a thing. He meets Sophie, who gets him a recurring gig at her dad's diner, and the two begin dating. A retired actor, Pramod, sorry guys, likes Akash's playing and invites him to perform a private concert for his wife at their wedding anniversary. Akash arrives for the gig, and Pramod's wife, Simi, lets him in, convinced that he is blind. While playing the piano, Akash sees Pramad's dead body and Manohar, Simi's lover, but is forced to feign ignorance. After the gig, Akash tries to report the murder to the police, discovering that Manohar is the frickin' police inspector. Twist number 1. Later, Simi hears that her neighbor saw something, so she pushes her off a ledge, a murder that Akash also witnesses.
Jesus, guys.
At Akash's apartment, Simi drugs Akash and forces him to admit he isn't blind before he passes out. Sophie arrives, having learned that Akash can see, and Simi makes it look like her and Akash are doing it, causing Sophie to storm out. Later, Akash wakes up to find Simi has actually blinded him, for real, before being attacked by Manohar. He barely escapes and faints in the street. He wakes up in an illegal organ harvesting clinic, but convinces the crooked Dr. Swami and his assistants, Murli and Saku, to spare him when he says he can get them millions of rupees. So, they kidnap Simi, the wife, and blackmail Manohar, but when it's time for the money trade, Akash is tied up with Simi. At the handoff, Manohar shoots Murli, but accidentally kills himself via bullet ricochet while trapped in an elevator. Saku takes the money, but it's revealed to be counterfeit. Back at the clinic, Simi gets free of her bonds and attacks both Akash and Dr. Swami, who manage to knock her out, put her in the trunk of a car, and drive away. Dr. Swami reveals Simi has a rare blood type, so her organs would sell for millions. He also suggests using her corneas to restore Akash's eyesight. Akash is troubled by the suggestion, but Swami says, "What is life? It depends on the liver." Ha! 2 years later, Sophie finds Akash apparently still blind playing piano in Europe. He tells Sophie that Simi escaped from the trunk, killed Dr. Swami, and started driving the car. Akash, thinking Dr. Swami was still driving, tried to convince him to release Simi. She then made him get out of the car and tried to run him over, but a nearby farmer shot at a hare and missed, like the rabbit hare type of thing, causing the hare to jump and hit the car's windshield, causing Simi to lose control of the car and die in the crash.
Causing Akash to leave to London.
Sophie tells Akash he should have accepted Swami's offer. As Akash walks away, he violently smacks a can out of his way like a badass. Because he can see, actually. Oh, what a final twist.
What
I actually want to
final
start. Let's
twist.
start there.
Yeah,
Let's
I
start
think that's
with
the
that.
most important thing.
Let's do it.
Is the okay, but how? So was he just never, like, the way that she poisoned him, did he just recover? Did he just heal?
Okay, so that's
No, I
that's
think-
a possibility,
Possible?
I guess.
Maybe. I think that he got a procedure done. Like,
Because, like, how did she... It never really says how she blinded him.
She says there's 100 ways on YouTube you
Yeah.
can look up. So it's like maybe she just sucked at it.
I thought it was... Yeah, true. I thought it was maybe, like, the drug blinds him, but then it kind of implies that there's damage to his corneas, so it's like she probably did something to his eyes while he was passed out.
Yeah.
So then he might be permanently blind.
The movie's super hand-wavy about that as well. It's just kind of like, don't worry about how it...
Yeah, don't worry how...
It may not be physically possible to eat something and then go blind, but maybe it is. I don't know.
Well, you've never blinded somebody before?
it's interesting though, because my big problem with the movie is that he is faking being blind. And I can't think of many things more despicable than faking a disability to get ahead in life. And I thought the movie at one point was going to reveal like a real personal reason why he did it. Why he was
he's
faking
redeemable.
it. So he's redeemable, but they don't. And like they wait until, I don't know, like 3/4 of the way through the movie to be like, no, this is a selfish reason. Like he is doing it just to get ahead as an artist.
Yeah.
And then at the end, he doesn't even have to pay a price. He can see again. I thought that was so strange.
Okay, we are derailed into now the protagonist discussion, which is
I think we come
fine.
back to the ending later, maybe.
Oh well, there's other interesting things about
Let's
it.
go to the ending.
Okay.
No, we're in a sidebar
right,
right now.
we're
We're in a
talking-
sidebar about the protagonist.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
here's the thing. I agree with you. He doesn't really have much of an arc unless you consider it like a tragedy where that he doesn't learn.
Yeah.
But but it's not that, because that should culminate in his downfall.
Yeah.
If he has flaws at the beginning of the movie that he does not learn from or better in any way, then he should suffer for them later in the movie. Like in like a Scorsese movie, you would see like the mobster, like his empire collapses and it's like rags to riches to rags.
Yeah.
But in this, he got to emigrate and his life is awesome now.
And he's not
Yeah.
blind anymore.
And he's not blind at all, but he's still telling people he is.
And
Yeah.
he got the girl again. Like,
Well,
yeah.
sort of. No,
mean-
she's with somebody else.
Oh,
And she was
okay,
leaving the next day or something, wasn't
Yeah.
she?
Oh, okay.
They don't
They
end
just
up
each other?
together.
Oh,
but
yeah, my bad.
honestly, this is my biggest problem with the movie, is the fact that I don't know who the hell this guy is. I'm like, who are you? Like, at times he kind of is played as like the good-hearted dude who just is an unfortunate victim of circumstance. And at other times, like at the end, it's like, wait, did you end up stealing her corneas? And like, what? How can you see? Like, there was obviously some sort of foul play involved.
I think a big part of it too is our ignorance to that actor, because I think we go into movies and bring so much cultural cachet of the people that we know.
True.
And so we have zero with this actor, and he's very likable, normal guy, and so people bring those feelings in, and then it's like made more complex by his repulsiveness as a character.
Yeah.
But there's still enough of baggage that you're bringing in that it all balances out.
Right.
But for us, we're just
Right,
ignorant.
so the movie doesn't have to do the work
Yeah.
to be like, he's likable or he's not likable.
Yeah, we just
they,
like
They
him.
give you a baseline. So when he reveals in the first act that he's faking, when he takes his eye things out, you're not like, well, I still like you a bit.
That was like, that's the first twist to me. I was like, I couldn't believe it.
I was in a log line. I read.
Oh, that's so
I mean, if
lame.
you knew anything about the movie going in, you know that's.
Why did you guys research, man?
I
Your
didn't.
chance to go blind.
I'm talking about like one line.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Like-
Oh, no. The
like
log on I saw was like Bland
If
Panis
something's-
witnesses a murder or
If
something.
something's revealed in the first 10 minutes of the movie, I don't think it's okay for me to.
I
know
bet that was more than 10 minutes.
Yeah, it was.
I bet it was because
Was it?
the first
Yes.
act of this movie is long.
Yeah.
It's the 35-minute mark where Act 1 ends and we see the dead body, where it's like something different is going to happen.
We know that we see him taking the contacts out way before that happens.
Yeah, but it's like,
It's before that, but it's still quite a ways.
yeah,
in.
it's a little ways in.
It's before he gets his gig at the diner.
Well, I think it's so interesting too in terms of like different cultural sensibilities, where Western movies are designed to be like get you through them as quick as possible, tell as much story as quickly as possible. And I felt like with this movie, it was kind of a celebration of cinema in the sense that it was like, hey, you're here to enjoy a movie. Just sit back, relax, enjoy your time here. And like, it's an event more than like a medium to make a point. And I kind of enjoyed that, where it's like a lot of it doesn't feel as pointed or as like directed.
Yeah.
But it felt kind of more old school cinema, where it's just like, yeah, just enjoy the being at the movie theater.
Yeah.
And I mean, like,
Yeah.
I wasn't in a movie theater.
I was
but
definitely
like that.
thinking like this is 25, 30 minutes too long, but
Yeah.
maybe it's not. Like, okay, the part especially that is egregious to me is when he's in the piano bar at Franco's and he's like, he plays a song, but then he plays
another one.
like three
Three
songs. And I was
yeah.
like, okay, at this point, this is like when you're watching a kid's movie and the songs are, you just need to have songs.
Yeah.
Maybe in Indian cinema, you just need to have songs.
Maybe.
And they don't need to drive the plot.
Yeah.
Because I was looking at him like, does this characterize him? Am I learning more about him? Not really, other than like he's
talented.
qualities that you should like.
I think part of this deal that you're talking about, David, and you also a little bit, James, is the idea that this is a black comedy, and I think that going in, I didn't expect to have as much of it. I didn't expect it to have as much as like a takeaway as most as many other movies like genres that I watch, because I think that I'm just like, it's a comedy of errors, like it's a roller coaster. Like it's okay if the main character doesn't have the sort of journey that I would want them to have. But at the same time, I think that after I watched the movie, I was kind of like, I still don't know who this dude is. And that kind of bothered me. Like, even if he doesn't have like a journey, I want to know what his actual characteristics are.
Yeah.
And I don't understand. I'm like, is he
that
funny?
could be part of the ride, though.
Is he admirable? Like, he's kind of a weasel because he did this faking blindness thing.
Twice.
But then
after a whole thing
Yeah.
about actually glowing blind. Like,
yeah,
okay.
But then there are parts of the movie where they kind of like, he makes another character feel bad because he's such a good person. And so I'm like, wait,
Which part are you talking about?
particularly the part in the when they're in the car and he's trying to convince Dr. Swami, who's dead now, but he's talking to Simi. He's like, oh, I don't think we should kill her, blah, blah, blah. And she feels bad, I guess, or it's trying to make her feel bad. But then she decides to run him over anyways. And then there are other times where it's like, I thought there was a point with him and Sophie, but maybe I'm wrong about that.
But let's go back to the ending, because maybe what you're describing is not a bug, but is a feature.
What is it?
The fact that you don't know who he is. Because there's one interpretation I saw in Quora in answer to the question of how are his eyes healed. And the answer is, well, they went through with the procedure that they were outlining about. Is this Swapney? Is the doctor's name?
Swami.
Swami. So they say we're gonna like donate her liver to the
Sheik.
to a sheik.
Yeah.
And then you're just gonna
Well, not donate, sell it.
sell it. Yeah, and you're gonna get the money, and you'll be able to get your eyes healed and go to London. But we don't see that happen. But maybe it's because this whole movie has been an unreliable narration from this character. And so apparently there's a shot of when we're first shown the doctor and Akash putting her body into the trunk. There's like a tree in the background.
Yeah.
And then when we're retold the story later, when he sees the girl in London and he tells her what happened, during that car accident scene, that same tree is in the background. So instead of it being a continuation of the story, you could read that as a retelling of the story, and it's from his perspective, and he's glossing over. He's telling this. He's spinning a lie to her to make himself look good. But what he actually did do was the repugnant thing.
Yeah, I had an inkling at when the movie ended. I'm like, wait, was he lying to Sophie? Because clearly the story that he tells doesn't line up with the fact that he can see. So he was lying about something. So I was like, oh, is he lying about this whole story? And I saw an article as well. It's like, yeah, it's the exact same shot. In the shot before we go to Europe, the car drives past the tree, and then when he's telling Sophie the story, it uses the exact same shot, but the car stops at the tree, and that's where Swami gets out.
I can see it side by side now. Because now that I'm looking at it side by side, I'm convinced that it's not a continuity error.
No,
it's just
because there was room for that in my mind, because there was some bad music edits at the beginning of this movie.
Some bad edits.
Songs just ended, and like other songs started. I was like, maybe it's just kind of like lower budget and sloppy.
Yeah.
But this looked very purposeful to me.
When I read that, I was like, oh, okay, that's probably what they're going for, because that makes it all make a little bit more sense to me.
That's kind of cool then. I didn't even realize that
Sort
layer
of
it.
And I guess he's just a bad guy. He's not a good guy.
Well, I think it's an interesting choice, because I think there's not really any characters to tie your emotions to. Like, there's no one particularly likable except for smaller characters. Like, even Sophie's a pretty small character. She's not really in much of the movie. But certainly the villain might be the most despicable human I've ever seen on screen. Simi. Oh, my goodness. And then the, like, people he kind of makes friends with, like Dr. Swami, like, they're going to harvest his organs. They suck, too. And I found it hard to really engage emotionally with the movie beyond the shock and the twist, because, like, I don't know.
Yeah, part of it also is after the midpoint, Akash kind of ceases to be the protagonist. He doesn't there's a lot of scenes without him completely. And it's after that point where we get perspectives from, like, point of view. The story is told from other people, and Akash isn't present. So he just feels less like the main character at that point.
Yeah,
that's fair.
Like the whole handoff scene with Manohar and Murli and Saku. He's not present at all for that.
I guess this is really a plot-driven movie. It's, like, not character-driven at all. And that's totally fine, because the plot is bonkers insane, and like I think we all use like a roller coaster metaphor or something. I
was trying to come up with a different metaphor, and I was like, no, it has to be a roller coaster.
No, it doesn't. Could have been in the Ganges. That's what I did. I'm the smartest.
Well, I guess so. But roller coaster is like you're being pulled along.
Have you been in the Ganges?
Well, I guess if you're sticking to one of these crazy mountain roads, is that what you're talking about?
I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you think it's a shortcoming of the movie that, like, to me, I think it doesn't make adequate tone promises at the beginning to set you up for what's going to come, what kind of movie it is later. Like, when he's just in the bar singing and stuff, like cute. You said, you think it's like, oh, I'm just watching like a Bollywood rom-com.
Totally. And I was like, I was fine with it. It was a very pleasant tone. Going to the music shop, talking to his friends, hanging out at the, I don't know.
I think it totally switches.
It's hard. There's definitely two ways to interpret it. One is they didn't do a good job with the tone promises, and the other is they're totally setting you up to take the rug out from under your feet.
Yeah, exactly. Right. That's why I'm asking you if it's good or not.
I think it's both, and it really depends on the person. And I find black comedies like this are always better on rewatch, because you know what to expect a little bit, and like the twist might not have as much of an impact, but you're emotionally prepared to let the movie direct you. Whereas this first time, I feel like I was like jarred around a little bit. But if I could rewatch this, I feel like it would be a little bit smoother for me. I would see it coming a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of part of the cultural tone thing that we're sort of unfamiliar with, because I didn't know that this was a black comedy going in. So maybe if I knew that ahead of time, I would be more prepared. But I just felt jerked around. Like, I was like, what is this a serious? Is this dramatic? What? Like, I was so confused, especially because there are a bunch of shots of him playing piano. And okay, we were going to talk about this at some point. This dude, like, I don't know why they keep doing this, filmmakers in general. This guy's so obviously not playing the piano. And I think they do kind of an okay job of like making it look like he's hitting the right keys at certain points. Yep. But there are other times where they just don't care.
Dude, there's a part where the cat walks on the high end of the piano, and it's like boom, boom, boom. Yeah, and it's a chord too.
For that shot, it cuts away and it shows the cat on the piano. I was like, is that a player piano? Like, how did those notes get played?
Not those notes, no.
And so particularly in the beginning, if we're talking about tone promises, there's a long sequence of him playing this nice piano music, or it's not even nice. It's his like dun 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 dun, and it's kind of like a salsa sort of vibe. I was like kind of confused, but it's so long, and so I'm like, is this like a nice moment? Are we like, oh, this guy plays piano, he loves the art of it, and I guess that is the idea. But
it's telling us that he actually is an artist.
Yeah.
He's just in his room alone, like raging at the piano.
But there's just something about the implementation, about the execution of these ideas that is just like a little different than the way that a Western movie would do it. And it's very confusing.
Well, that's something I was going to comment on when you're saying you can't figure out what genre it is or how you're supposed to feel, but that could be just completely our own shortcoming, like our own inexperience with Indian cinema. Maybe for everyone else, they're like, "Yo, this is formulaic, run of the mill."
Yeah, but
that's normal.
That's the thing is that when there's things in these movies where I'm confused, in this movie where I'm confused about it, I'm like, is this because of the cultural difference, or is it because this movie is actually kind of weird at this point?
This is exactly what happened during our anime coverage, like Spirited Away and stuff. We kept asking the same question.
Yeah, I feel like there's a bit more. I'm more comfortable watching an anime in terms of like understanding the general vibe.
Well, I have a wider knowledge of anime than I do of Indian cinema.
I've watched more anime than I have.
I'm equally ignorant of both, but this was way more comprehensible to me.
Interesting.
But one thing that I thought was interesting was like we're talking about cultural tones. Parasite.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't feel like there was nearly as much of a divide watching Parasite.
That's because that director
Bong Joon-ho
is very influenced by Western cinema.
Oh, fair enough.
And South Korean cinema is kind of more closely resembling in terms of sensibility.
South Korea is the America of Asia. That's what I say.
No.
Don't say that. Don't say
Culturally.
that. I don't know.
Moving on.
Moving on.
I'd say Japan is, but
they're different for different reasons.
but yeah,
We're all American
I feel like
in our own way.
this is India's Parasite. I see this as being like pretty close to Parasite.
Wait, what?
I think
How?
Parasite hits harder for me.
Oh, in
where
terms of
I
like
think
being a black comedy, sort of.
It's just like a similar
it's
kind of
similar.
movie.
Oh.
That's fair. I think Parasite's ideas, they land a little bit more for me because I think that it's I'm a little bit more of the target audience than I am with this.
Right. Parasite is super character driven, also.
Yeah.
Whereas this one, it's a mixture.
Yeah,
but
I think like I said before, this movie's not really interested in telling the story as efficiently and in as many ways as possible, whereas Parasite is telling its story very visually. Like even just the design of that house in the lower level is telling a story of division, of class and stuff. And I don't think they're doing as much with this. Like the apartment set of the rich people, it's cool and it's got like cool design and stuff, but I don't feel like it's telling as much of a story. It's just like very cool design, very striking. It really bothered me when there was all the fingerprints on the mirror, though. I was like, yo, someone should have cleaned that.
Yeah, I think this movie is just, I don't want to offend anybody, but at least in my opinion, this is like just a worse movie than Parasite. I mean, Parasite won Best Picture.
Yeah.
Like it's a very
Come on.
It transcended,
like with a veteran filmmaker, like it's a very good movie. This movie's still good, but this movie to me has shortcomings that are like, no, they probably should have. Like I think there's certain things you could say, and everyone would agree that would be better if they had done it that way. For example, the opening scene of this is the farmer and the hare, and it's one of those scenes that's going to tie in later. Like, we're going to return here at the end, but my issue is that farmer and that hare are not a part of the rest of the story.
Yeah, I was wondering
Whereas
that if I missed something, and if they're like if it's tied thematically, like maybe hares are an image of lies or something.
It could be. But
I don't know.
But at least just like narratively, it's not tied to the rest of the story. So if they had some kind of final car wreck and involved like his neighbor kid who was present throughout the story, that would have been tighter.
Yeah.
Just examples like that.
Yeah, for sure. Or if like something that he had to fake to do while blind came back, and that could work. It's very interesting because I know that a lot of people like these like absolute chaos movies where it's a series of scenes where the absolute worst thing happens, and then the next scene happens, and then the absolute worst result of that becomes worse and worse and worse and worse. And this is one of those movies, like, it feels like Uncut Gems to me, where it's kind of a little bit hard to watch, and it's just, you're watching a scene where it's the ultimate, he has to make an ultimate decision in every scene of life and death or worse, and then that will lead to the worst result, and then it gets worse and worse and worse and worse and worse.
All the way down.
Yeah, it was insane. And like, I think there's a skill to that. Like, I'm kind of in awe of how far they take this idea of his one simple lie that becomes so big and you can't backtrack from him. And for me, the point where it became so big, I was like, oh, this is gonna be bad, is when he signs a legal document where he like.
Yeah,
I can't remember exactly what it is. He gives a statement, but but not seeing anything.
What he had witnessed.
But like the lie witness.
Auditorily.
Yeah. That the husband was alive and stuff. And I'm like, oh, he's really fucked now.
Yeah,
like he's written a legal document about being That
was a great moment when he is in the police room and it just kind of cuts to a wide angle for a second. And he's like, I saw the whole thing. I'm not actually blind. Blah, blah, blah. I was like, oh, that's hilarious. Because I thought it was like actually happening for a second. And I was like, oh, that was a good joke.
Yeah, that's kind of key too, because that tells us that he has a conscience.
Yeah.
So he's not just, because on the one hand, he is like a con artist, kind of an asshole, and he's hiding behind this whole like, it was an artistic experiment. I just wanted to see what it was like. But it's like, no, you know, like it's getting you ahead in that world, and you know you're getting cheaper rent because of it.
Yep.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
Oh, I missed that. Yeah. Oh, I mean, I remember that now. Yeah.
He's like getting, it's like 500 rupees a month or something.
Oh, dang, dude. That's not very much.
Yeah, it's frustrating.
Can't be. He says it's not.
No.
That's how I know.
I wish that he struggled with coming forward earlier in the movie. I think, like you said, like it signals that there's that he has a conscience. But I guess I struggled a little bit with the ease in which everyone in this movie lies, and maybe that's like just the tone of the movie or like the world in which this movie is set. But every character lies with such ease and never feels like they have consequences. Well, no consequences, but they never struggle with the morality of it. And I was like, oh, that's interesting that it's just like it's just a movie where like everyone's a liar.
Yeah. Well, one thing kind of that struck me about the like casual immorality sort of thing was he gets picked up by these same people who he encounters while blind, like the cab driver and the
lottery lady.
Oh
yeah.
And they knew that they knew him when they picked him up, right? Because they talk about it. That whole scene or phase or whatever is like it was so confusing to me because he wakes up and we don't know right away that it's like a organ harvesting place. Yeah. We think that they tell him it's a hospital and it looks like kind of like a rundown hospital. I'm like, oh, maybe it is. I don't know what hospitals look like in that area of the world. And so it's like, I don't know if it's clear or not that it's like a bad situation right away. And they kind of take care of him. They walk him around. They're like, you want to call? They're being really nice to him. And then all of a sudden they're like, okay, now we need to knock you out. Like, oh, it becomes apparent that they want his kidneys.
Yeah.
But that seemed like such a weird twist to me because I was like, wait, I thought you were helping him. Like,
well,
that's what twists are, baby.
No, I know, but why wouldn't they just take his kidneys out right away? Why would they go through all this trouble of taking care of him and giving him a call? Maybe they had to do some like,
tests and stuff and see what blood type, and they couldn't just immediately kill him. They have to keep him alive for a bit because it's easier to keep the kidneys in his body than to store them.
They didn't decide to do the kidneys. I guess maybe they could take the blood and then test it later.
You're thinking too hard about it.
I am. But the point I wanted to make about that in terms of the morality of it or whatever is the fact that like these are people that he encountered in his regular life and they were still like, yeah, so we can take his kidneys and you'll pay us $200,000. Okay, yeah, sounds good. All right. Yeah. Maybe just one kidney. It's fine. Both kidneys.
I did like that one guy was the one person that had a conscience that was visible in the movie. He was like, we shouldn't do this. Like, don't do this. Don't kill him. Don't do this.
I think actually all three of those characters, they oscillate back and forth. They're all complex in that way. They all do charitable acts, and then they do deplorable acts right after.
And that's what what I found confusing about it was the fact that like I'm like maybe this is just like I wrote down I'm like is organ harvesting like a big problem around it's set in Pune?
Maybe the thesis of the movie is that like just the craziness of life in India just pushes people into these wacky situations where they don't get to act their best.
That's fair.
Because even, is it Simi?
Simi?
Even Simi, like, it's all an accident for her, too. Like, yeah, she's having an affair, but she didn't mean to kill her husband, and just escalates from there. Like, she's not a bad person, necessarily.
I mean, cheating on her, she is. And I think the movie demonstrates that pretty clearly by the end, where she has no mercy. Mercy.
Like, she didn't have to screw over his girlfriend with the whole cheating thing.
Well, and, like, why? Literally blind him, and then, like, there's multiple times where she, after he's blinded and is no longer, like, a danger to her or revealing the story, really, she just, like, I'm going to casually kill him, no problem. Like, yeah, she gets him to leave the car and then goes to run him over. I was like, that's That's enough of this. That's enough. I'm so upset. I was so mad at her.
I was so confused,
which is good.
too.
That's what the movie wants me to be, is mad at her.
Yeah, and I think I was expecting to see some shred of humanity from her, but yeah, there's just
They
nothing.
never do.
Every single time that she could make a decision, she makes the evil one.
Yeah.
Something you talked about
intense.
a second ago, Riley, actually kind of confuses me. You said that he wakes up in the hospital, and we, the audience, don't know if it's a normal clinic or not.
Yeah.
And that's actually contrary to the tack that the movie takes most of the time. Most of the time in the movie, it's audience superior. We know stuff that the character doesn't know.
Right.
A lot of the time. And at the beginning of the movie, I thought that was an interesting choice because, like, there's lots of ways to reveal information to an audience to, like, build suspense or not. And I don't know that audience superior is always the best way.
Yeah.
But in this movie, he eventually becomes blind. And when he becomes blind, it's all audience superior because he can't see stuff at that point.
Right.
He can't see what's around him. We know, no, don't walk that way. You're about to walk into a knife or
Right.
whatever, right? And it seems like by that point in the movie, it has to be audience superior. And so maybe they were like, okay, if it's going to be audience superior here, we might as well do it the whole movie. But the scene you're talking about where he wakes up in the hospital and the audience doesn't know if it's a hospital or not.
So, like, if I take this idea of the hospital, waking up in a hospital, you don't know where you are, you don't know what's going on, transplant that into a Western movie, I can imagine a sequence that makes sense where it's like the protagonist wakes up, it seems like he's being taken care of, he was in this horrible, dangerous situation, oh, I can relax, finally. And then as kind of things go on, it's like, wait a second, did you just say operation? What's going on? Oh, they're taking my organs, I'm going to struggle now. But so then that's fine, I guess. Maybe there's like a tone that I'm missing there that made that sequence make more sense. I guess it's just like a plot hole situation where I'm confused as to why they would bother pretending to take care of him only to then, a day later try and get him sedated so they can take his kidneys out.
I was kind of
when that was the plan the whole time.
Yeah, maybe that's just a convenience just so they can get you more, they can just twist you harder.
Yeah, but that's bad.
Yeah.
I think my favorite situation of audience superiority, but then it actually backfiring, is the scene where Simi is poisoning him, and she walks in with the snack and the tea, and he watches her poison the tea, but really it's the treat that she fed him right when she walked in that's poisoned. Because like there's a lot of suspense. You're like, okay, he knows that she is putting the poison in, and we know that, but he can't reveal that he knows it somehow. So like, how is he gonna figure out how to not drink it? And like the whole scene is like, okay, is he gonna do that? And then they undo it, and then it backfires, and then he gets poisoned. And I like how the dynamic of audience superiority is totally flipped on its head in that one scene.
That's amazing, actually. I actually didn't realize until right now that I guess what you're saying is the poison that she puts in the drink is not poison at all.
Well, we don't know. It could be poison.
Because I just assumed, oh, damn, she poisoned both. She really covered her bases.
Yeah. No, but she's
maybe
she's testing him. Because she wants to know if he's gonna. Like,
I know
react.
that she was testing him because as soon as she spills the drink, she's like, ah.
I don't know why it wouldn't be poison though. I mean, like, you might as well.
I don't know. It's hard to get poison.
She obviously got
rich.
poison to poison the sweets.
Yeah.
Anyways, that was a very confusing scene. Yeah.
But really, I liked it. I thought it was fun, and like I said, the audience superior dynamic is just flipped on its head.
All the scenes where someone's trying to uncover whether or not he's blind, like when the policeman puts his hand in front of his face and moves all the times where he's like under scrutiny of being found out, those are all tense, right?
Yeah.
I thought it was a really creative scene where he is forced to play the piano while they're cleaning up the murder scene. That was crazy.
That was great because there was almost like a silent film vibe because it's like one long shot looking over his shoulder as they are cleaning it up, and they're far away from the camera, and they're kind of like hustling about, like they're cooperating really well. I'm like, man, this is a great couple. They're working well together.
They should be married. Yeah.
He kind of like brings the towel around, and she goes and mops the stuff like as he goes. Like it's in perfect sync.
I mean,
and all the while he's playing this like nice classical music.
It's not nice though, man. That's like anxiety music.
Oh no, sorry. I mean like complex.
It's like good
music. And it was like I was like, oh, this is like funny silent film vibes.
But there's so many things that detract from the experience of watching that scene though that are just like logical, where you're like, why would they have to clean it up right now? Why don't they just say, you know what, that's enough piano, why don't you just leave?
Yeah.
Like, why does he have to sit there? That's a film convenience, right?
I think it's because they used Manohar. I guess no, that's still, you can make it work. Manohar leaves the room and they kind of say, oh, there goes Pramod, he has to go. So I'm like, okay, maybe that's why they had to clean up now.
Yeah,
But
and maybe
he could have just walked out the door, and then just stayed there or something. I don't know.
Yeah, and I think they want to do it so that they can have that voice, like the voice confirmation that he's still alive. Like they have the recording from earlier that we saw.
Oh, that was so cringe. I was like, that would not sound real. That wouldn't sound real at all.
She's got the best phone speaker in existence.
Yeah.
I think she was holding a Bluetooth speaker at the time.
Oh,
but,
sure.
But still.
But your phone mic is
Which was definitely product placement.
Oh, yeah.
That's the thing I appreciate about apparently Bollywood movies. They have all these credits up front, and they also say they listed
products?
this product placement, like the sponsors.
That's interesting. I wrote that down too.
Yeah, Subway was one, and that's why he eats at Subway at some point.
That was so weird because
Chicken tikka sub?
not only are the credits coming at the beginning of the movie, but it's the most obscure credits that you like. These would not only normally be at the end of a movie, but they would be at the end of the credits at the end of the movie. Like they're the last credits. Like no one cares about.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why am I sitting through 5 minutes of like the food sponsor? Like what the hell? Like the catering was done by this service. Like who cares?
Yeah,
But-
I honestly don't know. I mean, obviously it's probably some legal requirement
Maybe.
in India, but
That's
knows why they do it that
that
way.
Subway placement was hardcore. I was
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
here's your chicken salad with the barbecue sauce on
Well,
it for
and
$4.99, sir.
Bluetooth speaker too. It has like a close up of the Bluetooth speaker as the music is playing, and it's like got RGB lights and stuff. We've probably done that speaker of a video on there.
Probably.
Who knows? And then there's other things that pull me out of that scene too. Like, first of all, like the guy's what's his name? Pradna?
Pramod,
Pramod.
the actor.
I'm sorry, everybody.
It's okay.
They're all foreign names to me. I've only seen them once. The body is leaning against the wall, like he's propped up on his arm.
Oh.
And I'm like, there's just no
You just
way his
crumple,
arm would
yeah.
be there. He would just crumple over. And then when Manohar's dragging his body away by grabbing his feet and pulling him away, you can see his arms lift off the ground and go against his sides. And like
It's easy
his
to
arms
drag.
are tense.
Yeah.
Like his arms aren't just dragging on the floor.
Amazing.
I was like, oh my
That's
God.
rigor mortis. Wait.
Yeah.
Wait a
I
second.
thought it was so interesting too because there's almost no blood because it's like actually the wine is what's on the ground and he has like the little bullet hole
Wait,
through his
what?
neck because he drops a bottle of wine.
Is that not blood on the ground?
I think originally I thought it was blood, but then it's
That changes
like in
the whole
slow-mo.
movie for me.
But it's
looked-
interesting.
yeah.
There's like not much gore for how dark it is. I thought it was interesting.
Yeah,
Maybe
it's
that's
just
for the
dark.
rating.
Oh, maybe.
It's just
Is
dark
that-
emotionally.
I don't know. That was definitely sold as blood.
Yeah.
I
I think one thing that we've talked a little bit about the pacing, but I think one thing that's good about that pacing is that things happen so far apart that I felt like anything was possible. Where
so
like
far apart.
all the times you see Sophie come back, I was like, anything is possible to happen with Sophie now. Like I didn't know what to expect because there's so much breathing room, and I actually had time to think about like what are the possibilities, and I felt like it was limitless. And I thought that's something that's good about this movie and that pacing in particular is that you kind of have time to breathe a little bit more than in a Western movie and imagine. And my brain was going. My brain was working really hard watching this movie, and I really enjoyed that experience.
Yeah. I mean, I think that I wasn't relaxed watching this movie.
Certainly not.
I was asking WTF every 3 seconds because I was just like, wait, who? How is? Honestly, most of the time it was a mixture of the fact that there was some twist revealed 2 seconds ago, and also that there is a tone happening that I just don't understand. So I'm trying to figure that out the whole time. But I guess, and so because of that, I almost wish that the movie was shorter because I was confused the entire time and I was uncomfortable. Like, I think it was an enjoyable experience in the sense that I found it interesting because I was like, oh, this is a new thing that I have not experienced before. But yeah, it wasn't like, I wasn't glad that the pacing was slow or that there was all this space. I was like, make it over.
Release me.
Yeah, let me go.
Yeah, if they were to remake it in the West, this would be an hour 45.
Yeah.
Like, way tighter.
Riley also texted both of us after he watched it. This is the day before I watched it. He's like, you guys, this movie. And I was like, what is it? Can we even cover it? Because there's been times in the past where we pick a movie to cover and then it's just like, it's too bad or there's nothing to say about it. So we have to like pivot. He's like, oh, no. There's stuff to talk about.
Yeah, you're like, is it coverable? I'm like, oh, it's coverable, all right. I think I messaged guys, what the actual fuck?
Yeah.
That was like
that was a spoiler for me, you jerk.
What do you mean?
I didn't know it was a what the actual fuck kind of movie.
Well, yeah, I knew that there was a risk of that, but I was just so emotionally in my feelings.
And we're your only friends.
The premise, well, yeah, I'm not gonna. The premise of this movie, I'm wondering if it would fly in the West.
You'd have to workshop it a bit, I think.
Like, I think that this movie could have come out in the 90s in the West.
Oh, I mean, just from like an ableism perspective?
Yeah, like having blindness as a trope or as a gimmick that the movie's premise hinges upon. I don't know if we'd make this. I don't know if this movie would be made.
Well, you got
West.
A Quiet Place, but that doesn't have to do with ability.
Yeah, it's not comic. Like the fact that he's blind and he's faking it, and then he actually gets blinded is like an ironic twist. It's a black comedy. It's
I think
like
that
thing.
could still happen in Hollywood for sure.
Really?
It's just about how deplorable the character is.
Yeah, I don't think it would be the main character. I can see like a secondary character.
No, I think you can do
happen to
it,
them.
be the main character. You just have to make it be more tragic, where he doesn't have an okay life at the end. It all goes wrong.
He either gets what he deserves, or he gets redeemed. Like he admits that he was so wrong.
Yeah, once
Yeah.
he has the actual blind
he,
experience,
like gets
it changes
educated.
him.
Yeah.
To go back to like the characters for a second, we already talked a bit about Akash and how we're kind of confused about what his deal is. But did you feel like some of the other characters, did you feel like there was a character in this movie where you were like, I know who this person is, 100%? Other than Simi, I guess.
The guy running the music store.
But
So,
even
Sophie.
I'm still confused about Simi.
But no, Sophie, I don't feel that way either. I don't think she's super well developed either. Like it's like I would have a hard time playing the game where you define a character without like what they look like, what they do.
Well, you know
Yeah.
what? Yeah.
It's like she's nice and
What's her deal?
compassionate.
She's
No. She has like some fire to her. Remember her
Yeah.
character introduction? She's yelling at that guy who cut her off in the moped, and she has a second scene where she excoriates somebody
Totally.
similarly.
Okay.
And I wrote that down. I was
fair.
like, but I wrote that there was nothing that I could use to describe her other than the fact that she's kind of feisty. Like she yells at the driver, and it was actually a really funny line when Akash isn't really speaking to her, and she's like, This invisible tension doesn't suit me. I break out in spots." I thought that was so funny.
Yeah.
But other than those two times where she kind of shows some fire, I'd be like, who is she? I don't know.
I'd say
What is she like?
She's likable and like charismatic, but yeah, I don't
She
know.
likes blind musicians.
She puts
doesn't?
blindfolds on and makes love. That was
yeah.
sweet.
I like that romance scene. I actually
Yeah.
bought their romance. I thought the
Yeah.
chemistry was good.
That was nice.
It's too bad that she gets kind of sidelined later on. It'd be
Totally.
great if she saved the day somehow.
That'd be sweet.
If she came back, yeah, that would be kind of cool to have them have some sort of like conclusion.
If there was a Western remake of this movie, the love interest would be blind and he would learn that it's wrong through his love for her.
Yeah, maybe.
Absolutely.
At least in the early 2000s. Would've been
Yeah,
great for
and
sure.
it's also frustrating to me because they seem to be developing a relationship, and he seems to actually like her. But then later, like when he gets caught up in all this stuff, he doesn't even make any attempt at all to like
Apologize.
reassure her or be like, "I'm sorry, I'm just trying to figure some stuff out." It's like, "Oh, things are going." Like he doesn't try to contact her.
I guess his pyramid
He
of
just
needs
drops her.
His pyramid of needs is not at that level anymore. His pyramid of needs is survive.
Yeah, but she could maybe help him. You know, like
Maybe.
I don't know.
I think you're right. I think they could have definitely worked it in.
It would have been cool if she came back, kind of saved him, and then was like,
Fuck you.
exactly.
Yeah,
I'm
that'd be
out of
better.
here. And then
Yeah.
that's actually like, that's what you deserve because
Yeah.
you did this repugnant thing.
Yeah, something.
Yeah.
Manohar, the police chief, he's just evil, buff, bad man.
But is he that buff? Because like the character
bodybuilder.
description's like bodybuilder.
Well,
And I was
he's
like,
pretty-
16 eggs a day. Yeah, right.
He's pretty, guys. He's got
like a-
muscles.
he's
I mean,
got a lot of muscle mass.
yeah,
that's
he's a
true.
muscular man.
When he was just revealed to be in the shower,
oh,
that was
sick.
the first cool moment of the movie.
Yeah,
You're
I was
like,
like,
yeah.
whoa, I'm on board with this movie now.
Yeah,
This
yeah.
is insane.
It amped the stakes so much.
I was also like, wait, did Akash pee? Because that's some great bladder control. You
Oh,
see a
yeah.
dude in there, and you're like, holy shit! But I'm
Yeah.
still gonna relax enough to pee. Like,
Yeah, that really sets him up as a hero, as like a very competent hero.
yeah.
well, yeah, and like all the times that people are testing his blindness, he passes with flying colors. Like no one ever suspects.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then there's Merle and Saku. I'm just going through the characters now. We already kind of talked about how we are very confused by them, and
I like the lottery lady though. She was cool.
yeah.
I mean, she's so two-faced though.
I know. I'm just confused about who they are, but I guess it's like there are people who live not on the street, but they're not sort of out of their luck, I guess, and so they're looking for any chance to get ahead.
It
and
might just be a cultural.
it's a dog
difference
eat dog
thing
world
that
out
we don't
there.
really understand.
Well, yeah, because we don't have like 7 different casts.
I honestly kind of
I don't think that she's down on her luck or anything. It's like that's just her lot in life.
yeah.
That's
what
where
I
she's
mean.
at.
That's just like the world. Yeah.
I found it.
Dr. Swami though.
Oh yeah.
I feel like I understood him the most because he's just like a crooked nihilist who just like is going to justify things that he wants to do. No. Although the moral argument that he gave for taking
Pretty
her,
compelling.
Yeah, I was
like,
actually like,
she's an evil bitch. She's gonna die, and we're gonna make more life.
Yeah.
From her parts.
Which actually makes me think, maybe Akasha isn't so bad of a person for taking her corneas and like killing her.
I mean, the world, like the movie certainly seems to be that the world is a better place without her.
Sure.
Like she is such a human piece of garbage.
Right.
Like,
I mean, obviously, like for me, in my moral system anyway, the right thing to do wouldn't be to do what he did. But at the same time, I'm like, he's sort of more justified than I thought, I guess. If she's so horrible, and then he like took her. Well,
I think though it's not
her,
about necessarily justice. It's more about like, do humans have the right to make those decisions? And it's like,
yeah,
no.
I was talking about. I'm talking about morals.
Well, these are I have a
legal
little
justice per se.
Little section in my notes that says themes, and there's only 2 bullet points.
Okay.
And one of them is justice. You did it. We
But-
got there.
But who?
Is it making a statement? I don't know.
Well, I think in some ways it is, but it's a little bit jumbled because it's certainly saying like he fakes blindness, he gets blind. Like there's a kind of like a sweet poetic justice to that.
But then he gets unblind.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't get that. But maybe I'm just missing it.
Well, I don't. Maybe the statement is that it's just there's no
There is
justice.
no
It's just
justice.
But
it's
when
ambiguous.
you are when you're wronged, here's the moral lesson. When you're wronged by someone that you tricked, it's justifiable for you to get them back for the wrong that they did to you, and then that closes the moral loop.
I think Jesus said that.
Yeah.
Well,
New
Gandhi
Testament.
said, "An eye for an eye makes the whole world blind."
Right, but you just
And
tricked
that
them.
is so much more apt because Gandhi, India, eyes, blindness.
That's a much better reference,
Yeah,
James.
because I'm smarter again.
Leave Jesus out of this, David.
Strike 2, Riley.
I have one hit pick and several nitpicks.
Do it.
My hit pick when Sophie slaps that child. Good moment.
Oh yeah.
You like that?
Yeah, I was like, this child is a
beginning of the movie-
petulant fucking child.
No animals were harmed in the making of this film, but we slapped this kid.
It's okay. He's a kid.
But I guess I hated him at the beginning. I was like, what a fucking asshole for trying to trip a blind person. But as they reveal later, he's suspicious that he's actually blind and he's trying to find out
And
if
he got
is.
paid to get hit.
Yeah,
His parents got paid for that.
As long as you get paid, then it's fine.
that's fair.
Their
So that's my
animals
hit
don't get
pick.
paid.
My nitpicks, though, that CG rabbit
Get paid in food.
was a mistake.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
a bad
Well,
CG
actually,
rabbit.
this was kind of interesting because when the rabbit wasn't moving, I was like, "That's a pretty good CG rabbit." And then it started moving. And I was like,
animation is
"Oh
way off.
no!"
It's
But like the
kinda
hair,
choppy.
the realism of like the detail of it was pretty good.
Yeah, but it's still like the second you see it, you're like, that's fake.
Yeah.
Like it
Yeah.
stands out.
Yeah,
right?
of course.
But whatever.
Well, honestly, like the still of it sitting next to that thing that the farmer shoots by accident. It's
What
like
was
a
that
road
thing?
sign or something.
Okay.
I don't know. It was some sort of unit.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that could be a real rabbit.
I really wish I had researched the significance of this rabbit thing because it's got to be.
It's gotta be
It's in
important.
my it's
What,
in my
hairs?
theme section here. Like maybe random chance is a theme in this movie.
Oh, it's like lucky. Oh,
well, just
maybe.
because like it's the climax of the film and it's just random chance. Like they
Yeah.
just happen to drive by when this farmer's shooting at a hare.
That's fair. I think there is a reading of this movie where it is about how like there is no order to anything. It's all chaos and like there's no justice. There's no,
Or
there's
maybe even
no
this
reason.
this
It's just luck.
discussion demonstrates that we always try to find meaning in everything.
Yeah.
It's just like when remember that scene where they think he's some kind of like oracle. He has like a third eye because because he remembers the decal in the back of his auto
or like tattoo or whatever.
and her tattoo. And they're like, oh my God, like
Yeah.
he can organize this chaos. And they're searching for meaning. And
That's fair. That's
Well,
interesting that we're all
hair-
kind of looking for our place or we're looking for our meaning. And like he's found his place by pretending to be blind, and that's obviously not a good place.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I think we're kind of finding
There's
something.
there.
Getting there.
We're
India,
finding
help
some meaning.
us. Get India on the phone.
Hair is in the mantra Hare Krishna.
Mm-hmm.
So
And Indians have beautiful hair generally.
oh, that's a different spelling, James. No, that's way different.
Okay.
You're
My
way
My
off.
next
Sorry.
hit pit is that squirrel shirt that Sophie's dad wears.
Oh yeah.
That's a sick shirt.
What?
was
I
awesome.
love that shirt.
I don't remember that.
He's just wearing like a random shirt. It's like a print, but it's like a squirrel, and it's very like cartoon weird.
It's one of those
Yeah.
like three wolf howling at the moon shirts.
but it's a big squirrel. I
nice.
love it.
That was-
so much. It
It was bold.
was very bold, and it drew my attention. And I'm betting almost everyone watching the movie has their attention drawn to his shirt.
What did you guys think about all the English words and phrases that are kind of like peppered in there. Because I haven't been to India, but from what I understand, they all learn English.
Yeah.
And so it seems like it's kind of funny. Like English is just kind of like certain parts of English are just part of the way that they communicate.
Well, there are many, many languages in India,
Right.
but the one that you can bank on everyone knowing actually is English.
Oh,
At least knowing a bit of, because that was the only time there was a standardized education system placed upon them by the British, and they all learned a little then, or a lot.
I wonder if it's like, I mean, it's obviously not the same, but I guess the parallel that I could maybe draw was someone like saying a phrase in French or maybe Spanish in North America.
In like Quebec slang, there's a lot of Anglicisms where you'll like use an English saying or something. Like I know a lot of places do that.
It's I don't know. We don't have an analog here, but
Right.
Not to the extent
No.
that they have. But you can think of it as like "Hasta la vista, baby."
Yeah. Or like
you
a
know.
je ne sais pas.
Hi, amigo. Like later, amigos, whatever. Just like
Yeah.
throwing some Spanish words in.
I want to ask the new people watching this, like, is that like a regular speech thing? Like, do people just like pepper in English like that, or is that more of a cinema thing?
I don't think
to
that was-
unify a cinema, like the different like languages of India for the cinema.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
My gut tells me that it wasn't too put on. I think that's probably a realistic portrayal.
I think the thing that made me so interested in this point was the fact that the phrases that they say in English don't come off to me as being like necessary to say in English. Like they talk about inspiration and perspiration. There's something where it's like those are how you get good at something or whatever. Inspiration and perspiration. They say now for the main course. That one makes a bit more sense. But there's also a part where Sophie's talking about how he got blind, and Akash says, "Can't we just talk about something more cheerful in English?" And I'm like, you didn't have to say that in English. They're just like the times at which they choose to say a certain phrase in English seem to be pretty arbitrary. So I was like,
Maybe, yeah, but that could be
Again,
just super nuanced. It could
yeah,
be like the
just-
word cheerful is just very specific, and they don't have an
Yeah.
analog in Hindi to that.
Yeah, maybe.
You never know. Have you ever had, even here in Canada, like you can hear there'll be an Indo-Canadian having a conversation on the phone with someone else who speaks
Yeah.
Punjabi, and then just randomly you'll just hear like just English words.
honestly, when I
Not
hear
this
that,
time.
when
You're
I
like,
hear
why? Why did you switch then?
Yeah. Honestly, I get jealous when I hear that because I'm like, oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Like you're the person you're talking to. Both of you know these two languages, so you can just kind of like swap in and out when you
Yeah.
want to. I'm like, that's so cool.
When convenient, when there's a better way
yeah, I feel
in one than the other, that's awesome.
my grade school level French doesn't cut it.
Who
I
wants
went to
speak
France.
French?
I just didn't work. Most of the time, I was in France trying to speak French, and they were just like, "Just speak English.
Just speak
It's fine."
Yeah.
I don't feel like I get why they spare Akash. I don't get why they don't just kill him and use his organs.
I think the idea was that they were going to after they came back, or maybe they weren't.
What
Maybe they were
does
just
he
like-
do again to make them stop?
Well, there's a few things. Part of it, I think, is like you said. They think the superstitious lady thinks
Oh,
that he has
are
a
you talking
third
about at
eye.
the end or
no?
at-
In the midway point
Oh,
when they're
okay.
going to harvest his organs, and then they're like, "Oh, yeah, it's time for the operation." And he's like, "Whoa, operation!"
which is also like he just hears the word.
Yeah.
He just hears the word operation, and then he knows. Wait a second.
Yeah. Well, no, honestly,
That's fair.
I totally, yeah. If you're that vulnerable, like you would be on guard at
Yeah, I
all the
guess
time.
so.
Yeah, like
But,
that would, even if this movie took place in the West, if he's like, yeah, I'm getting a checkup, and then someone says operation, you'd be like, whoa. Even if you're not thinking there's organ harvesters here, you might be like, you guys are in the wrong room or something.
Yeah,
There's been
yeah,
a
yeah.
mistake. But they also are in a place where like, yeah, organ harvesting much more possible. I don't know specifically about India, but I have a friend who went to Madagascar, and while they were there, like there was a period of days they could not leave their hotel because there was some kind of like organ harvesting, trafficking, like apprehended like
Oh, damn.
criminals kind of thing went down.
my
So like there's
Apparently-
parts of the world where you're like, yeah, that does happen.
Well, apparently before 1994, India had no legislation banning the sale of organs. That was a long time ago.
Yeah, that's-
But it could be that there's more of a. We don't know.
Well, there's lots of things that still happen that this is illegal, but it still happens.
Right.
Like, isn't the dowry system like that? It's been illegal since the 80s, but they
Yeah.
still do it.
robbing banks. A lot of people still do that.
I do that on the daily.
The music, the piano gigs. I'm confused. Is there a backing track? Why is it like it's so bumping? It's a
Yeah.
single piano player.
But there's a drum and a bass
Yeah.
and a guitar.
Because most of the time, that was something I found tonally confusing. Not that wasn't even maybe cultural, or maybe it is. The fact that like normally, if there's a single person sitting at a piano playing music, and singing even. It's not like a rockin', we're not going to get people up and head to the dance floor with this. It's like, oh, that's nice. He's a good piano player.
I think it is a cultural thing where like there's a different expectation, because I think you're right. If it was a Western movie, you would have him play like a really mournful song that's kind of setting you up setting up the tone for what's to come.
Yeah.
But here it's like, no, we like the musical part. We like enjoying
it's not even,
it should be like a music video.
But it's not even the point. It's not even the fact that they're getting excited about the piano that's confusing. It's the fact that there is a backing track every time that he's playing and people are loving it.
Yeah.
There's backing tracks. There's percussion. There's extra instruments.
I think it's just culture.
And people are loving it.
I agree with you.
But I'm like in the universe of the movie.
They're not there.
They're not there.
No, he's just playing piano singing.
They're just getting excited about it.
It's just for the cinema.
It's the same as like
experience.
if they break out to song in Beauty and the Beast, and all these townspeople like emerge into the windows of their apartment buildings to like add a line to the song. It's like, did that happen in the universe of the movie?
But you're saying this is like, you're saying that these sequences are like musical sequences, like in a musical.
Yeah.
We just kind of.
But
I think
it's more about the vibe than it is about what's actually happening.
Yeah,
I think so.
Because I don't think they're
Gotcha.
trying to tell the story with these scenes, and maybe I missed it with the lyrics, or maybe the translation just didn't quite nail it.
The lyrics were a little bit of a budding romance between him and Sophie, I think, but
you didn't need 3 songs to say that they were attracted to each other. But we just have different sensibilities.
nice voice. I wonder if that's the actor singing.
He's a singer, so it probably is.
Nice.
The ending. We already talked about like the
A
twists
little
and
bit.
stuff. But when Sophie walks into the club and sees him playing, I was like, wait a second. This is straight up La La Land.
Yeah, for sure.
This is straight up the ending of La La Land. I mean, obviously it wasn't exactly the same, but like even down to like the beats of like her watching from afar, and then he finishes the song and she walks up and like.
Well, it was about the right time that they definitely would have taken inspiration from La La Land. It's 2 years, like La La Land's 2 years before.
Yeah.
And so this is based off a French short film, I believe, or like the ideas taken from that.
Right. Yeah, I forgot to mention this.
I can definitely see that they would have watched La La Land, like some of the feelings, and they kind of maybe wanted it to feel like it, or maybe they didn't, but they just brought over certainly some elements.
Right. Yeah, it's it's not based off, but apparently he got the idea about a blind pianist from this French movie called The Piano Tuner,
yeah.
or L'École d'Ur by Olivier Traynor, I think.
But is the guy faking it, or is it a real blind pianist?
I think he's actually blind in that one.
That's pretty different. That's
yeah.
really different.
Yeah. So, but I think the idea is that of the blind pianist, and then he's like, "Oh, I could." He took it from
Crazy.
there. The director, Sriram Raghavan.
It's really nice of him to give credit, because he definitely could have not given credit for that idea. You could have been like Ray Charles.
Yeah, no, I think
Stevie Wonder.
Olivier Traynor has a credit in this. I think it says based on story by
Yeah,
Olivier.
that's cool.
Yeah.
Good for them for actually like following through and giving credit.
Yeah.
I like that.
There's another element to this that I thought, well, that's probably a really Indian thing that I never really appreciated, which is the fact that he wants to go to London. It's it's probably part of their culture, like deeply. Like I know people in New Zealand, they in their 20s, they almost all leave New Zealand for like 7 years, and then they almost all return to New Zealand. But it's just like a rite of passage, like we all leave. And maybe that's the same thing, especially since he's an artist. It could be him saying, I'm an artist and I'm going to go to London.
Yeah.
Might be the same as someone here being like, I'm going to California.
Yeah.
I got to
Right.
go to Hollywood.
I could
That's,
see
that's
that,
where
yeah.
you make it.
Right.
Yeah.
But he doesn't go to London. He goes to Poland.
Oh, was he in Poland?
Well, okay. And the Wikipedia synopsis says Krakow.
yeah. I think that
But
seems
the
to ring a bell.
movie just says Europe. But apparently, someone identified that it was Krakow.
That's kind of funny to me, because that's like the Western equivalent of being like somewhere in Africa.
Krakow's like sweet though.
But no, but did they say
Just
in the
going-
movie?
just
No,
Europe.
I'm just talking about the title.
in the
Going
movie,
to
they
Europe.
don't say Poland.
They just say
don't-
Europe,
They just say
right?
Europe. Yeah.
He made it to, well, again, the mentality, it's like, doesn't matter, just gotta get
Anywhere.
somewhere up there.
I mean, it doesn't really matter where they are. They're just not in India
nitpicky,
anymore.
for
Yeah.
sure.
there's definitely, I mean, it does matter when you're emigrating. There's a hierarchy, but like, you want to land somewhere, and it's all Eurozone, so we'll get to Sweden eventually.
I really appreciated little jokes that popped up where I was confused about the tone at certain points, and then a character would say something, and I'm like, oh, that's definitely supposed to be funny. I understand what's going on. Like when Manohar, it's a recurring theme that Manohar's excuse for getting out of things is to say my wife's aunt is in the ICU.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
He's like in a cop meeting, all of the cops are behind him, and he gets a call, and he just starts walking out. He's like, my wife's aunt is in the ICU again. I gotta go.
Yeah, that's probably like a super Indian thing, hey?
Oh yeah, maybe.
Because auntie and uncle is like you're not necessarily referring to your biological auntie and uncle when you say that.
Right.
I've been told before. My first job when I was like 14 was on an Indian-owned berry farm.
Yeah.
It was legal, I swear. And they told me it's like, yeah, that guy uncle, he's not my uncle. That's just like a term of endearment you say to all men who are older than you. And then a man who's the same age as you, that's brother. A woman who's older than you, that's auntie.
Yeah.
It's kind of quaint, except one time my girlfriend got like a message and it was like, "Hey, auntie, you up?" And then it was a dick pic.
Oh,
and it was
no.
very like, "Whoa, auntie." But it was like, "Oh, I see it. Yeah, it's the cultural thing that's different." We got great revenge though. We sent him like 40 dick
Oh,
pics.
you mean this is a complete rando?
Yeah, complete random. We have no idea who it was.
Wrong number?
Yeah, it was a wrong number. My girlfriend was like,
auntie.
"Oh, wrong number." So
Oh,
we just
geez.
revenge. Sent a bunch of dick pics.
Was that like a
What if his revenge was like, haha, I like those dick pics.
Sure.
Joke's on you. He just sent
He didn't respond to anybody.
Was it like a sext or a prank?
I don't know. I
Like
wonder.
somebody
I think it was a
anti-
sext.
I feel like that's if that's a kink or a fetish, it's very specific.
If you sexualize the auntie relationship, is that the same as like saying MILF?
Maybe.
Maybe
Indian people out there, let us know.
some people are into Oedipus. It's cool.
Oedipus.
Oedipus. I ate a piss.
Okay.
Okay,
time.
that's a different thing.
No one's gonna know what you're talking about at this point.
Oedipus. That's what happens when you read books and don't speak.
Yeah, Hermione.
Oh,
Harry Potter.
another really weird experience was at the beginning. There's this like, when like before the movie starts, it just shows like those. What are those called? Those like stingers for different production companies.
Uh-huh.
And it does this one that's, I think it's just advertising Viacom, and it's the camera's panning through some like 3D city, and on each of the buildings there's like all these billboards of like presumably famous movie moments, and I didn't recognize any of them or any of the actors at all. But I was going through mentally like, imagine that's Neo from The Matrix, and then that's Forrest Gump, and then there was like 35 of them. I was like, it's just a crazy humbling moment of, like if you ever try to imagine that like inside someone else's head is a brain that it has as much history and complexity that your own brain has, and it's like impossible to imagine. I was like, there's a decades-long experience of movies there.
I would say if you haven't ever watched many foreign films, do it more often because of these kind of experiences. I think that it's like I had that same feeling where as I was watching this moment, I was kind of like, whoa, this is like an alternate universe thing. Like if I went to another planet and I'm like trying to, it's not quite the same as another planet, but obviously it's like seeing that things are just kind of the same but a little bit different. Mm-hmm. It's like
when like a boomer is like, why would you go to a country that doesn't speak the same language as you? Yeah. Wouldn't it be hard in every way? You're like,
yes,
exactly.
It's very disorientating,
but it's just so interesting.
It's super illuminating.
To go back to basics and be like, things you took for granted, the way fences look, not the same over there. Like
they got different fences.
They've got these walls with broken bottles on the top. It's weird, but it's all over Mexico. I don't get it.
Yeah, human heads. That's just the way they live.
You're not talking about Mexico anymore,
of course.
That's Canada.
I was just talking generally.
That's Canada. If you guys haven't been to Canada, we have severed heads everywhere.
But watch out or you get your head severed. Yeah. It's fun.
I think it is important to stay as close as you can to the pulse of other cultures.
You grew up and stay there forever.
No, absolutely not. But to be aware of different experiences, because I know I'm guilty of it, of closing myself into my worldview and thinking that I have a broad worldview, but it's like, no, I don't. Like,
totally.
Compared to the planet, like I have such a narrow experience, and it's really important to watch different movies and experience different stuff. So I highly recommend it.
Yeah, I mean, to make this point even more broadly, I feel like it's super important for people to try and get into other people's shoes as often as possible.
Oh, here's a question. What culture's movie should we see next?
What cultures?
Serbian.
Yeah, like we've seen Serbian film.
No, not Serbian film, but
Fijian.
Serbian cinema. No, I could do like Polish cinema. They got some good shit. Russian cinema maybe.
Like Tarkovsky?
Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah, Solaris.
Mirror. Anyway, that's a question for the fans, I suppose.
Elitist French indie movie.
Yeah, fuck the French.
Yeah, I'm like, as I say that, I'm like, I don't want to watch that.
Guys, I'm French, so it's cool. Don't
David's
worry
allowed to. He's got that nose. All right. Thanks, guys.
Well, that was a movie.
Next week, we're going to be covering Inglourious Bastards. It's going to be a Sarah episode. That'll be amazing. You can tweet at us at Carpool Critics to tell us why we're wrong. You can email us if you have lots of reasons why we're wrong at hello@carpoolcritics.ca.
In the subject line, just put "don't read."
I read them all.
We're doing Inglourious Bastards. How long you think before someone mentions the word Hitler?
In the episode?
It's gonna happen.
My slogan now.
Oh no. Oh no.
Hi everybody in Hitlerland. All right, see you then.
Bye.